Riane, little light. That was what he called her. Her true name was much longer and more beautiful, especially in the old tongue. Little else about her would fit those words. Her face was wrinkled, bloodless, thin and worn with care. Her rheumy eyes were sunk deep into her wasted cheeks. Their hue was pale, drowned in shadow, but they might once have been blue. Her clothing hung loose from her emaciated limbs. It was no more than rags, and so faded and stained that their shade was hard to determine. She sat, gazing out from her high place, over the barren, snow-covered hills, their rounded shoulders glistening white under the dying crescent moon. "Cold," she murmured, her hands whispering as she rubbed them together. She was hooded and cloaked against the bitter chill. He will not come, not this time. She shuddered as a thrill of fear ran through her breast. I made sure of that. It is too late now, anyways. All is frozen, lost and dead. The depths of the dark season were upon her. As always, she had aged, her body growing old as the year failed. Yet this time her heart held a secret spark. Yermarth was half gone, but her belly was still flat and her grip strong. "I have done it!" she crowed to the lifeless crags, no longer able to contain her triumph. Her voice echoed from the pile of tall black stones set below the great yew tree upon their white frost crown. "I shall not die, not this time, Black Jack. You have failed." A sudden long shadow caught her eye. It seemed to flick round the base of his clegger. She started, feeling icy cold brush against her heart. "You cannot," she continued, belying the tremor upon her lips. "You can not." Her plan had been simple. Her old Jack was a creature of habit, and she knew his ways. All the spring, the Waigwan win, he was weakest. She too would be but a child then, and he would leave her undisturbed. Midsummer brought maturing. Her new-grown maidenhood would blossom, full and sweet. He would start to come round then, courting but still gentle, not demanding, not yet. That would all change come Yahydriath. As the leaves would turn bright yellows and reds, and golden corn burst from the ear, her full ripened charms would become a powerful call. His obsession with her would grow with each passing day. 'Twas nigh the end of the month of Ragfear, cold and dark. Then the wild winds would blow, tearing at the last leaves clinging to near barren boughs. Each long night the old lech would come to her, incessant, insistent, circling around her, mad with desire. The very night of the Alban Arthur, the longest dark, his passion would rise like a tide, beyond all control. He would come then to take her, to force his dark seed within. Their child would swell within her, even as her body would wither and grow frail. On the last day of winter, as the light would balance the darkness, she would be born again, bursting forth from her own withered husk. So it had always been, and the endless cycle of the year would begin anew. But not this time. This time, as the days had grown short and the nights cold and long, she had watched for him, her old Jack. She had thought at the last that she might lack the strength or the will for the deed, but her outrage had been surfeit enough. She allowed him within, feigning as if he had overcome her defences. At the height of his passion, her slim blade had met his thrust. Hot blood from his slit throat pooled on her belly, stifling his final ecstasy. Afterward, she had dragged his cold bones up the brown hill to the foot of the Gwitch Moor, the great Yule Yew, life tree of the world. She buried him there, laying the last stone of his cairn upon him by the pale light of the first winter moon. What would he say, she thought with a grim smile, if he could see me now, in a state like this? She clutched at her threadbare shawl, pulling it tight. Her hands trembled as she stretched them towards the poor blaze, searching for warmth. Wisps of tangled grey, a thin cascade of lifeless straw, straggled from her cowl. "Faithless Jack," she whispered, clenching her jaw, "I am free of ye now." Faithless. None but she had ever called him that. None would dare. But all was not well. Free from his clutch she might be, but not from the march of time, nor from the bitter cold. She gazed into the red coals. Her thoughts were filled with regret. "Ah, my little one," she breathed, her voice tattered by despair, "you will never come, never again." A tear caught the firelight. Bent and broken, it traced down her cheek. Tangled rainbows trammelled within its depths. It fell soundless to the frozen stones. Too quick for sight, she hunched forward and dipped her gnarled hand into the ashes to snatch forth an ember. Glowing, she held it aloft. It burned her not, yet to her face it lent its youth. Its warm light revealed her inner beauty, soft red lips and bright, gentle eyes, luxuriant passion gleaming in their depths. A moment only, then it was gone, a black cinder, cold and dead. She crushed it into dust. "I don't care," she hissed. "I hate him. I will not have him. Never." At last, worn by her care and dulled by the endless cold, she slept, for sleep was a precious thing. Into her sleep came a dream. Darkness, darkness surrounded her, walls of dead stone and winter fell, cruel and cold. She looked down, her head hanging. The fire was out, and nothing was left to kindle it anew. Her shoulders began to shake, betraying the turmoil within. Pain, fear, anger, fear, pain. One silver tear, salt and hot, burned across her face, wetting her frozen lips. She curled herself into a tight ball, seeking warmth. "He will pay," she silently raged, even as her grief coursed through her, and she shuddered in the frigid air. Her fleshless fist knotted into a ball. "He will pay!" she screamed aloud, her voice slitting the bitter throat of the night. Then a sound, terror sudden, stopped her. Was that him? A click of stone against stone. Suddenly his great bass voice rose, groaning from the shadows. "Rhiannon! Rhiannon, me lovely," he crooned. "Me sweet, are ye quick yet?" His voice rumbled through the fractious air, heaved at the frozen earth, and shivered through the ice-torn sky. Her heart trembled. "Me love," he called once more, "can ye forgive me?" She could not move. His words swirled like fiery sparks within her ice-cold heart. He was come, she thought. Shuddering, she raised herself, dagger in hand. "Begone, demon! Dear full do!" she cried, her voice breaking. "I buried your foul body deep. Your dead spirit cannot trouble me." "Ah," he growled, "ye can hear me. Good." His face swam out of the shadows, bloodless blue skin ghastly in the light of the crescent moon. The flesh below his severed throat hung loose, open like the gullet of some great fish. His garments were black as the night. Her eyes grew wide as he came closer, towering above her. "I can hear ye, black devil, but I don't want ye." "That's hard, Rinny," he moaned. "Terrible hard." He drew closer. "Ye have nae to be worritin." His voice lowered and sweetened. "You've done me love. I cannot touch ye." As if to demonstrate, he swung a loose, jointed arm towards the black stone ledge of the fire pit. It passed through it with nary a whisper. Her eyes goggled. Then she laughed as her heartbeat began to slow. "Old Jack," she said with a curse, "faithless demon, I have done you, and ye deserved no less." A sudden lightness entered her heart, all fear banished by his impotence. "Begone, I say once more, ye cursed scoundrel. I slit your throat, he, and before ye placed your foul seed in me." She got up, cackling and capering like a demented banshee. "I'll not be your whore, nor lay myself down to please your lust. 'Tis you that has died, and your moulder feeds the fifth in crows." She danced with glee as his countenance darkened, yet a tiny tendril of fear still thrilled in her breast. He seemed to pull in upon himself then, and his face became cold and still. At last her laughter ran its course and left her wheezing. He waited, staring at her till silence reigned once more. "So," he cried, "ye think yourself clever. Aye, you've done naught to me that will not bring harm upon yourself double." Rage gave power to his voice. It boomed and echoed off the hillside. The great yew itself trembled. "Look! Regard your wrinkle hands, my Rinny lass, O my fair one. Do ye not see? Look at your face." His eyes popped, bulging from their sockets. "You're dying, dying sure, and there shall be no new birth for you. Not this time, no." He paused as she stared at him, shocked by his passion. "'Tis the end for ye, lass, unless ye come to me now." He turned, sightlessly gazing over the shadowed down. The last of the nail-thin crescent moon hung above the horizon. Its light caught the frost-covered yew, glinting from the black stones piled at its root. "Ye must take me within ye ere the moon dies. Beneath the life-tree ye must lie with me or be doomed, and all the world with ye." She stared, silent, breath clotted in her throat by his words. Suddenly his shadow seemed to fret and shrink, its edges roiled. His cloak filled, as with an unseen gale, its ragged bat-wings enfolding his dead hands and pale corpse skin. One great flap, and he sailed into the gloom. "This night, afore the death of the moon," his voice faded to a mad, gasping whisper. "Come to me this night, Rihanna me sweet, else ye shall die." She awoke, her heart pounding in her chest. Darkness in truth surrounded her, and wonders. The walls of her stone shelter were gone. The air cut through her thin rags like cruel knives. "How did I come to be here?" she thought. Above her towered the frost-covered yew, ancient tree of life, oldest in the world. Before her lay Jack's cairn, the black basalt jutting out from the iron-hard earth. She clutched herself to still the shaking, head turning in wonder. No black shadow loomed about her. All around lay bright white snow, waist-deep. Its surface was unmarred by tracks of any kind. "How?" she moaned, her breath freezing in the bitter air, eyes wide. "How have I come here?" The silence was absolute. The rotted rim of the dying moon hung low in the eastern sky. It was the bitter hour before dawn. Jack's dry, whispering voice filled the air, coming from all around her. "Rhiannon," she started, heart leaping into her throat. All her instincts screamed to run, but the frozen drifts trapped her, holding her fast. "Coward," she croaked, her lips blue and stiff. "Show yourself." Suddenly her blade was in her hand, its slim edge almost invisible in the gloom. "Come!" she screeched, her voice ignited by fury. "Come, taste it again!" The vast darkness swallowed her words, and her challenge died unanswered. Enraged, she clawed the air, slashing in wild arcs until she was gasping for breath. She swayed, dizzy and numb from cold and exertion. The frost crept higher, seeping into her core. Her knife slipped from her nerveless grip, disappearing into the drifts. "Rhiannon." A new voice called, its soft whisper filling the void. "Rhiannon y Luad, goddess of light." She stood stock still, sudden fear almost stopping her heart. That was not Jack. No. It replied to her unspoken thought. "Ru Jakunan, god of frost, is no more. You have murdered him, and his bones entwine with my great roots below." Beyond shock, her eyes grew wide and her limbs leaden. At last, she understood. She turned her head, letting her darkening gaze focus upon the life tree. It towered above her, its voice sighing and whispering as it swayed against the pale pre-dawn sky. "Why?" she whispered. "My lord, why?" Her breath came short, and her heart laboured to pump her congealing blood. The last pale ghost of the moon began to fade amidst the cold dawn. "Balance," the tree replied as her heart failed its last beat. Soundless, she fell into the void. Dawn broke beyond the eastern ridge, and pink-gold light washed over the tree. Its boughs shivered, rosy fingers sending crystal ice sparkling to the earth, throwing bright rainbows. Empty, the world hushed as winter-long they lay. The roots of the great yew absorbed their essence, bones and flesh. Its heart opened, cradling them. That winter was long, the coldest the world had ever known. At last, the bitter chill loosed its grip. Rills of trickling water ran, tearing great rents in the hard-crusted snow. The brown earth was laid bare, its moist fecundity softening the hard clay round the life-tree. All alone it stood, swaying gently in the fresh spring air, waiting as the lovers commingled within. From its base came a green shoot, and thence broad green leaves. Twin vines curled up towards the light, flowered, and produced fruit. It swelled in the warm air, growing large, heart-shaped, its flesh coal-black upon the left, the sinister lobe, and silver light upon the right. On the very eve of midsummer, Canol did, the longest day, it came asunder. Ru Jatsuni wriggled from the dark core, her frost-maiden heart inflamed with passion. Rian Kailana, the heart of light, rose up upon her right, his fair skin luminous, his eyes bright. The ancient yew stood, silent witness to their newborn wonder. Love, it breathed at last. True love conquers all.